Giacomo, welcome to the Freedom Footprint Show again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, today we have our dear friend, the king of Swiss cheese, Giacomo Zucco on. Great to be here in Lugano. I mean, you're a big part of this event. You're like speaking all the time.
Oh, yeah, six speeches, and you can probably tell from my voice right now.
Yes. So, and we enjoy being here a lot. I mean, this place is beautiful, or at least I assume it is. If it wasn't for the rain, so you could actually see that.
We scammed people last year. It was very sunny in October, so everybody was eager to come back to this sunny Lugano in October, and then we rug pulled the climate.
Yeah. All right. So, first question. This is going to be a controversial one. Is Tether retarded?
That's a good question. I think it's not necessarily retarded for a very nuanced reason. There are two things you can do with blockchains that are not Bitcoin. There is one thing, scamming people. But the two things that you can do is depend on which people are you going to scam. If you're going to scam your investors because you just issue some kind of stupid share of a stupid enterprise, but you put a blockchain on that, so the investor will be duped into investing, I think that's bad. That's a bad use of the power we have to scam people. But if you do scam only regulators, so if some people want to trade stuff and they really want to do that for innocent reasons, and you cannot provide them a service because regulators are going to stop you from that with violence, and you scam the regulators with some blockchain magic, I think that's a noble use of our ability to scam people. Tether is interesting because they are scamming the regulators with blockchain magic. Basically, they are not doing anything different from PayPal, but PayPal is heavily regulated in the secondary market. Tether is not because blockchain. So as long as it works, it's great. And can they dupe investors? Not really, because the price of their product cannot go up by definition because there is a blockchain on top of it. It can just not go down, maybe as a credit denominated in dollars. So they're doing a dollar service, which is very Bitcoin friendly, which basically it's a Bitcoin friendly PayPal that uses blockchain magic thinking to scam regulators into being more free on the secondary market. So overall, I think it's a good deal as long as it lasts.
It's not more of a scam than the US dollar is a scam.
Well, it's more of a risk in a way because the underlying, basically the underlying counterparty, the underlying collateral is already scam is dollar, so it's inflated, it could collapse. On top of that, you have, on top of the base dollar, you also have the fact that these banks that Tether use must be trusted not to do excess fractional reserves and stuff. And on top of that, you have to trust the company itself, which of course could do additional fractional reserves. So it is increased risk. I don't think it's increasingly scammy. It's quite honest, especially in the latest communication. Everything you can read from the CEO, Paolo, and we discussed here in Lugano as well, is pretty straightforward. He cannot put it exactly how I did for obvious legal reasons, otherwise the operation will be over. But I think that if you talk with him, the purpose of the operation is very simple. It's a company which is very Bitcoin first, and they just want a tool that can help people to move fiat into Bitcoin, basically. Sometimes also back for a realistic consideration that many people are still scared of short-term volatility, and they are still very cold on brand recognition for Bitcoin. The dollar has the universal recognition that Bitcoin will have, but it's still missing. And Bitcoin and the dollar will probably lose that. So eventually, I think that the other thing that is interesting is that the Tether, the company, was born over this product that I just described. But then it went beyond it. One exception was TetherGold. I think it's very, very cool. TetherGold is just e-gold, it's basically they have physical gold in a vault here in Switzerland, and they issue this TetherGold. This is just like e-gold, but it's not in the US, so it's probably more resilient to regulatory aggression because Switzerland is a little bit more serious. And it is done after Bitcoin, so there is the blockchain magical thinking on top of it, which is increasing the plausible deniability for the secondary market. So TetherGold, I mean, I will make this classification. Bitcoin is the best, and it's the final solution, and we have to go Bitcoin. There is no way around it. And Tether people will agree. You can find it every interview that they will agree. Second best will be physical gold, but it's still hard to basically, the reason gold is not as good as Bitcoin is that it's not digital. You cannot transfer it. Then there is this digital gold, which is TetherGold, that is basically trusted, but with probably good enough guarantees. It's like a e-gold that will not be likely shut down. Then there is the Tether dollar, which is worse because the dollar is going to be inflated into nothing eventually. And because while Tether can hold the gold themselves in a mountain, it's a very cool mountain base in Switzerland, they cannot do that with physical dollar cash. There's no bank that does many billions in physical cash. So it's more risky, but it's still a useful tool for some people to approach Bitcoin eventually. I think we don't need stable coin, but I think that if done honestly, they can help somebody and not hurt Bitcoin, because eventually, I mean, they're not stable. They're just pegged to something which is very unstable.
It's a very oxymoronic name.
Right. I hate the name. Those are basically blockchain marketed fiat credits.
Yeah. So could TetherGold, could they potentially do a fractional reserve on that?
Illegally. They have a contract that says that they don't, and they have standard auditors that they can don't. So technically, for the Bitcoin mindset, where it's not like don't be evil, but can be evil. They can physically, but they will have to scam or bribe the auditor, so it's hard. While with dollars, you mean there is probably more. Even if I didn't trust the Tether guy, dollar is more complex as a topic because they cannot have the cash. They will have commercial paper that will a lot of nuances. With gold, there is no nuances. There are physical gold bullions inside the mountain, which is pretty good.
Pretty cool mountain, It sounds like something from the Lord of the Rings or so.
If you are very nice with Tether, maybe someday you will see it.
We'll see the gold. All right. So this leads us into risks of fractional reserve. So custodial Lightning wallets. We had this conversation with Obi yesterday. Is there a risk? Do you see a risk in that Wallet of Satoshi will all of a sudden start, handing out more Bitcoins than they actually have?
There is. I think that the reason that it will be quite evident is that what fractional reserve banking does is to reduce the custody fee and to increase interest giveaway to the user. So when you get to the point where Wallet of Satoshi is paying you to use it, probably you should start being concerned. So it's technically possible. What you use when you use Wallet of Satoshi is you are basically asking a friend to use Lightning Network for you in your name. Which, I mean, if the friend is reliable and the money is not that much, I don't think that Wallet of Satoshi or Albi, the custodial version, will be censored very soon. And I don't think they will rug pull very soon for the simple reason that the money is not much. So there's not enough money to rug pull, not enough money to censor yet. If it became the cornerstone of Bitcoin, like some exchanges are, then the incentives will change completely.
Yeah. Still, they're very useful tools. I mean, that you can do a ton of things with them.
I was very critical before because my point was, if you want to the custody at the margin, so Alfini said, Bitcoin-based chain doesn't scale. But it's still cool. We have the asset. Now we can build custody on top of that. Illegal custody, like anarchist, like Bitcoin banks. Some people thought that Al was talking about actual banks. He was talking about people on Tor just building a reputation as a bank because you don't need any paperwork for that. Just give me Bitcoin. Trust me, bro. I will give it back to you. That can happen at the margin. It was a sad trade-off to make, but it was a trade-off that we had to make. With Lightning, with the techniques of trustless UTXO sharing, we can have one single Bitcoin UTXO, which is shared by more people without trusting each other, or at least in some within some security scenario. And that's cool, even better. So Lightning is better. So my point was, if you want to trust. If you want Lightning, which is trustless, go Lightning. But what's the point of putting trust on top of Lightning? And I changed my mind because I think there is a point. It's a very nice layerization. You have the main chain, then you change your security model for the second layer. And then even actually Lightning is 2 layers in one because you have the channel and the routing. When you go routing, you are still changing your security model. Routing nodes are dangerous. Like there was an attack discovered 2 days ago, a few days ago. When you route Lightning, your funds are more in danger. Then on top of that, you can basically serve people with credit. But why put the credit directly on top of the base layer? It's nicer, actually more elegant if you give the users a very smooth way to go from trust to trustless without big jumps. So you start with, for example, Albi is very good. You start with pocket silver, trusted. They will rug pull you. Okay, so what is pocket silver? They will confiscate it. Go for it. It's just my pocket silver. You increase the amount of money you have to move. Or now you probably want your node still on Lightning, but maybe you want to route because you're reckless. You want to do business. You want to be safer long term. You don't want to have a watchtower to take control. Then maybe go to a Lightning Leaf that is not routing. It's much safer. You want to be safer. Just close the channel and go back on chain. So you can stay there. And on Lightning, the more time passes, the more risk you get. On base chain, the more time passes, the less risk you get. So that's great. So it's a nice thing. I think we should not. I think we should culturally fight for non-custodianship always, ever. So custody is okay. Should not be a meme because it's like when you eat or when you indulge in any kind of like a high time preference thing. It's okay.
Eating is a high time preference thing.
Well, eating garbage especially. Or smoking or whatever. There is no need to create a culture that normalizes that. If you create a culture that creates that specifies the long-term problem with that, so a culture of caution, then people will still ignore the culture and make a cheated meal or something. So you don't need to praise cheat meals.
No,
just praise the right diet, culture speaking. And be tolerant with the fact that people will cheat meal because that's fine. Because I mean, YOLO.
So is custodial Lightning layer 3 in your opinion?
Well,
is that the layer 3?
I think the Lightnings are 2 layers at least. There are many layers inside Lightning, but the real trust-related layers are 2 different. Channel and routing are very different trade-offs, and I think the more we go on, the more it's clearer that routing is way more dangerous than just having a channel with your counterparty and going back and forth. So I would say that Lightning is a Lightning channel, or in the future, a L2 channel, an ARC provider. So UTXO sharing, so sharing your Bitcoin TXO is layer 2, in my opinion. That's the most elegant definition. Atomic routing on top of UTXO sharing is layer 3. And then asking a friend to keep a channel for you, but it's not yours, that would be probably layer 4.
Okay, so what's an open dime? What layer is that?
That's very interesting. I would say that open dime is basically trust plus plus. It's a very badass kind of trust. You still have to trust an hardware provider, basically. So it's cool, but it's probably a layer 4 with some kind of. But probably when you discuss this stuff with Maxim Orlowski, you start to go 3-dimensional with layers. Basically, slide layers going down. So, but I'm not as good.
I'm envisioning like the layers in an Escher painting, like going into inside. All right. So I had this idea a year back or two about like as Bitcoin scales, this is connected to the time preference thing, that people will use money less and less, and will spend less because of the time preference thing. You're incentivized to prioritize quality over quantity. So, do you think that, like in general, do people is that something you see play out?
That's a cool idea. Yeah, Bitcoin can scale because you reduce the need to use monetary transactions. That's. I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah.
Still, scaling as a technological problem is still challenging and interesting, but that social version is also very interesting.
Yeah, because it's never talked about in the technical discussions about scaling. And there's another thing to it, like with Bitcoin, with the deflationary currency or money, you're incentivized to lower your time preference, right? But the other thing is that you're also, at least now, incentivized to help other Bitcoiners with whatever they do, because we help each other, we help Bitcoin, and we all win. So, and I don't see a point in time where that incentive necessarily goes away. So if we're just incentivized to be awesome to one another, I see like people interacting voluntarily and trading other things than Bitcoin, like services mostly, like Bitcoiners like this thing, for instance, is a transaction between me and you.
And we're not spending money.
And we're not clogging the chain at all by doing this.
Yeah.
So is that a part of the scaling problem and solution?
I think it is. Let's put it this way. Money is useful outside a trust circle. So within the trust economy, the gift economy of a family, money is just redundant. You just exchange, you just be nice with each other.
Yeah.
And things may just even out over the long term. Maybe the parent is taking care for the child, not for any return. But then maybe when the parent is old, there will be some kind of payment. But we don't even know. I don't care. Well, money is needed to scale outside of that. Well, Bitcoin is a good money, but it's also a kind of money that, as a side effect, can increase trust circles. In a very good way.
Exactly.
So that's a fair way to put it.
So and if you follow that thought vector far off into the future, is that like, because I find it so like a beautiful paradox that don't trust, verify enables us to trust one another more, because you don't have the incentive to try to cheat in system. And you know that if more and more people are living in this world, I mean, I trust the people here at this conference way more than I trust the normie anywhere.
Yeah, true.
So if we really try to extrapolate that, do we get to a place where the necessity for money to exist at all, it's just...
I think that you can increase the number, let's say, of trust to a certain point, but not at infinite. I think that eventually there is more Bitcoins that you can even understand.
No, but not infinite, but like trending towards. And will that ever be a trajectory?
Like in your mind, you still have to perceive a community of like-minded people working toward the same goal. Now you have it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You have an internal fractal of different cultures and motives and trends, but you still have a unitary we are here for Bitcoin, and you can see that, you can feel that. That, I don't know if that can scale to, for example, really millions of people.
No.
So like rock and roll scales to billions, but being a rocker with the jack, that doesn't. The same with bicycles. Like motorbikes, they scale, but being a biker is another thing. So I think the Bitcoin culture, which is what you're describing, will persist, but will probably not grow outside of what the biker culture can do.
Okay, so it's fair point.
Okay, we have some big news. We have a new lead sponsor, Amber App. They're the #1 exchange in the Southern Hemisphere. They're rated for the best customer service around, and their global launch is coming. But the reason we're partnering with Amber App is because of the people. If you haven't listened to our episode with Izzy, CEO of Amber App, you really should go check it out. You'll see why it made perfect sense to partner with Izzy and Amber App. That's all I'll say for now. You really have to check it out for yourself. They have loads of great features coming that we're excited to share with you when the time comes. But for now, just check out the episode, check out their website, amber.app. You can see for yourself why we're thrilled to bring Amber App on as our lead sponsor and partner. So go check it out. Next up, Wasabi Wallet, the privacy by default, open source, non-custodial Bitcoin wallet with CoinJoin built in. It's the easy-to-use, comprehensive, affordable way to make your coins private. And the best part is they've been making huge improvements to the app. They're really focusing on the user experience, adding advanced features for power users. They just keep getting better. You send your coins to your Wasabi wallet, and they get combined with loads of other coins using the Wabi-Sabi protocol, so they're private on the other end. Your tracks are covered, so you can work on expanding your freedom footprint without worrying about your privacy. So check out wasabiwallet.io and download Wasabi today.
There's another thing adjacent to this, which is what I've been eager to talk to you about for a long time, is this idea I've been talking about for a while of that we are the Bitcoins. Like that the people, they since it's only keeping a secret, they exist in your head. The node is not the Raspberry Pi, it's the guy deciding to buy one and run the software, and the miner is not the ASIC, it's the guy who chooses to buy one and run the hardware. So what do you say to that? What's your angle?
I agree. People is layer 0. But I mean, this is true for Bitcoin, and it's an important point because people may think that Bitcoin is secure just by automatic processes. It's actually secure by human incentives. So
backed by human action. Is
human action, yeah. Which is a point that is made, I think, very well by Eric Voskuil in Crypto Economics. There is this book that makes this point pretty well. It's just human actors, basically. And then these human actors can use tools, and this tool can change the relative power or the relative the incentives. So tools matter, but human action matters more. And the more tools are tuned to help human action and to synchronize, coordinate human action, the better the tools are. There may be an even deeper point, like this may sound crazy, but my deep conviction from a philosophical level as a former physicist is that people are layer zero of reality, not just Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, materialism consensus, which I think is very fiat, is that you have fields or particles, but mostly fields in modern physics. And then as an emergent phenomenon, you have yourself. And I think it's actually the other way around. You have selves, you have a perception, you have consciousness, you have choice as a fundamental layer. And that it has been demonstrated to a point by, for example, David Hoffman or other physicists, that when you assume a network of conscious agents, you can build general relativity and a draft of quantum physics. So basically, or also when you go deep into quantum mechanics, one of the interpretations of quantum mechanics that I think is the least convoluted is basically assuming the observer as the fundamental unit of physics, and everything outside of that actually as the emergent, apparent, temporary epiphenomenon. So in this way, I like the framing, because I think that not just Bitcoin is made by people, but like shares, tables, and
everything,
stars. Literally stars.
Yeah, I read a really interesting theory once called the meme theory of everything. That what we define as objective reality, this table here, for instance, is where our memes collide. So it's where the where they sort of intertwine. But that leads to all sorts of other strange realizations, like that there's a meme horizon, for instance, and we couldn't sync with brains outside of the solar system. And
minds even more than brains.
Because
brains
minds
are just...
I mean, minds. Yeah, that's a better term to use. For instance, it would explain why the Apollo, the signals from the first Apollo satellite are so strange. And why the signal is getting weirder and weirder. It would also explain why we haven't seen intelligent life anywhere else in the universe and stuff like this.
The Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
So, I will probably not go as far as to think that my ontology, which is basically a mind-first ontology, will make predictable, observable changes to the mainstream view.
No,
I think they're basically compatible. But I think it's what I see is basically. Some people will say that what we're discussing is counterintuitive, or even they say quantum mechanics is counterintuitive. I think it's not. When you are a child, or when you didn't study anything, your assumption is when you close your eyes, the world outside of you disappears, and every phenomenon is basically a will of somebody. Like the sun is, even primitive cultures, like everything has a will. Everything is some kind of. So I perceive myself. I want things. I choose things. I perceive things. So everything else outside of me must be quite like myself to some degree. So the first assumption is that everything is mindful. Yeah. Everything is basically free, not deterministic. Then, and also everything is probably discrete. You don't get continuous when you think about that. You don't get determinism. Then you study reality and you focus on some very small subset of phenomena that are repeatable and intersubjective and repeatable. That phenomena are not very many, but they are important, because if you harvest them, you can build tools, machines, and you become more powerful. So we created basically a philosophy during the very modern times, like after the 17th century, where everything that the child will think is wrong, and then you grow up and you learn that the world is deterministic, just atoms bouncing around, and the world there's no free will. Everything is deterministic. There is no consciousness, just a delusion. There is continuity. There is no discreteness. But then you get to quantum mechanics and you break down literally all of those things. So you can react in two ways. One way is to say, okay, I was right the first time, and this emergent appearance of determinism is just a special case, just an emergent case. Or the second reaction is, I really love my mechanicistic ontology, metaphysics, and I will defend it by creating convoluted theory. So you get like many words, and you get like or superdeterminism, and you have to desperately try to keep your 19th century, 18th century worldview, which is basically broken by actual empirical evidence.
So you have to shoehorn it. This reminds me so much about the arguments made by Hoppe in Economic Science and the Austrian Method, which is one of my favorite books, where he points out that what Mises really did was connect the two worlds via the axiom of action. So even if an empiricist would say that we can never say that something is absolutely true, we can only say that we can do approximations and we can get closer to the truth, but never to the actual point of truth. But that statement in itself is an absolute statement. So it requires you to have an absolute truth, which is connected to this from the everything starts from the individual.
Yeah, performative contradiction for anything which is not. I agree. It's if you want, it's also the good old midwit meme.
ATIQ.
You start with a simple. So the point of the midwit IQ bell curve meme is that the universe is not really that tricky. It's kind of, the universe is beautiful, it's rich, is complex, but it's kind of truthful. And when you're simple, you may not get the nuances, but you kind of get it as a general heuristic. Then when you become smarter and more pretentious, you start to lose track and you enter very, very stupid kind of models. And then when you go really deeper and you get all the nuances, you realize that you were just right the first time.
Oh, yeah. It's so fascinating.
The show is also sponsored by Orange Pill app, the Bitcoin-only social network where you can stack friends who stack sats. You can connect with your favorite Bitcoiners on the app, make local connections, and even connect with Bitcoiners around the world. You can see what's going on in your area and organize and attend local events. I've been to multiple events organized on Orange Pill app, and they brought Bitcoiners together from all over. And now, with group chat, it's easier than ever to stay in touch with all your Bitcoin friends. The best part is, you know it's high signal. There's no spam on Orange Pill app because everyone pays to be there. So download Orange Pill app on Apple or Android and start building your local network of Bitcoiners. Next up, the Bitcoin Way. Their mission is to onboard, educate, and remove barriers to taking self-custody of your Bitcoin. They cover everything from cold wallets to nodes, no KYC Bitcoin purchases, inheritance planning, payments, and more. Whether you're new to Bitcoin or you're an experienced Bitcoiner looking to expand your freedom footprint, or you know someone who this sounds perfect for, the Bitcoin Way has something for you. They have a skilled team, well-versed in the Bitcoin space, and their goal is to make all the complexities of Bitcoin as straightforward as possible for everyone. And the best part is you can get started with a free 30-minute call with their team. Go to thebitcoinway.com/contact for more info. Our newest sponsor is Geyser. They are the portal to the creator economy on Bitcoin. On Geyser, creators can monetize their work through their communities in a social and engaging way, and supporters can send sats to their favorite projects. Geyser has also recently integrated with Zaps and Podcasting 2.0, so every Zap sent to a Geyser address shows up on the Geyser page. We have a Geyser fund ourselves. It's the best way to support our show directly with Bitcoin. So whether you're a creator or a supporter, check out Geyser at geyser.fund today.
Luke, you have anything?
Oh, first, great summary of now classic talk from Riga. I encourage anyone to who hasn't yet checked it out to
absolutely
go watch that one. Because
the problem
classic.
of Bitcoin midwits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
And since we don't have a whole ton of time, and thanks for squeezing us in, by the way, can you tell us a little bit about, since we have to get back there, a little about what's going on at Lugano generally these days?
Yeah, so Lugano was an interesting city, has a nice history. Like they stopped Napoleon troops from invading. They were the refuge of anarchists from all Europe. It was famous for that. It was a nice lake city, nothing big. Then it became important mostly from. The major will not see this stuff because it's in English, so I can say it. Lugano became important because of basically money laundering from Italy. That was the whole point of Ticino financial infrastructure.
And money laundering is beautiful.
And as another talk Riga says, money laundering is beautiful. So Lugano was beautiful. But unfortunately that stopped. and after Patriot Act, that basically stopped. So now Lugano was searching for a new identity, and there is some cultural push to go away from the past of financial privacy because they have been hurt by the United States mostly. So some pressure to let's forget the past, and some counter pressure to remember the past, which is financial privacy and sound money. Switzerland was the last country on earth to abandon gold standard. So there is something there that is very Bitcoin-like, and Lugano was starting to feeling it. And then some happy coincidence happened that like Tether, we were discussing before, Bitfinex and Tether and all the companies in that family like Hole Punch, Synonym, they were basically decided to base camp in Lugano for, I don't know, practical reasons, logistical reasons. The guys beyond Tether, as you know, are Italian. So Switzerland is basically a non-retarded version of Italy, or less retarded version of Italy. You basically eat almost Italian, you speak Italian, in Ticino especially, but you are not living in the socialist hell that Italy is. So, I mean, it's a good compromise. So these two things merged, and the city municipality fell in love with Bitcoin. At the beginning also with crypto, but then we managed to explain them that even from a non-ideological standpoint, there are so many crypto cities, crypto island, crypto nation. That already happened. That was so 2016. There was like Island of Man, the Malta, Puerto Rico, Zug. So we told Dubai. We told them, if you are crypto, you are just a very late Zug canton. But Zug already was, it's already there. If you are Bitcoin, you are just a second after El Salvador worldwide. It's a different kind of approach. So we managed to make the initiative more toxic over time. Last year, there were still some very delicate shitcoining going on. This year,
don't count Tether as a shitcoin then?
No, I don't. I think Tether is,
a fart coin maybe.
It's a fiat coin in a way. It's closer to a kleptocurrency in a way
than a cryptocurrency,
because it's way. You will not lose money. I mean, it's way more riskier for your portfolio to have Monero than to have Tether in a way, in my opinion. But anyway, I think that, and even that part, Tether itself is also becoming more maximalist, that the narrative of Tether is moving to Bitcoin first a lot, and is also moving, as I say, to TetherGold, which is closer to our idea. So everything is it didn't start from a very maximalist point of view because the practical situation was crypto, but it's evolving in a very nice direction to see. And so what we have now is the forum, second year, beautiful conference. I mean, a lot of people, well organized, very, very great. And we have the Lugano Summer School that we incorporated into this Plan B network initiative. We have, many other things. And there will be this Lugano Plan B Bitcoin Hub, which will be a very tall building, in the 5 stores building in the center of Lugano, bought by Fulgur Venture and Tether, that will be a Bitcoin hub. And I miss one. I had one in Milan many years ago, and it was so cool having Bitcoiners all around, all day. And physical places are important.
And like the network that these Bitcoin sanctuaries around the world are creating is just fantastic. Like how, because this is so connected to El Salvador and Madeira and all of these.
It is. My plan will be, of course, it's always difficult when you create the infrastructure and you propose it because anybody will create their own. So I joked on stage that my mission is centralization. But it's to a certain degree, that's true. I don't want everybody to reinvent the wheel. So as long as money is decentralized, knowledge is decentralized, and everything we do is open source, so you can just fork it and do it yourself. As long as that's true, I like coordination. I don't like reinventing the wheel. As you said, the fact that we don't have to trust make us very keen to trust each other inside Bitcoin. So what I would like to provide with the resources that Fulgur and Tether gave me about this network is to provide a template for this kind of sanctuary where the main key will be education. Of course, sanctuaries can be useful for many things, from escaping government persecution to do business. But the education angle, like universities, campuses, is very easy to sell. Like a citadel seems something aggressive. Maybe you're going to hide the terrorists there, right? A university campus seems Seems very innocent, but it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, decentralization is one of those words that get thrown around, and it's not stopping anytime soon, I think. But the way I see it is decentralization is an unfortunate means to a way greater end, which is global sound money.
Agreed. You could go there. Like I agree that blockchain, for example, is a necessary evil. I don't know if I will agree with this decentralization, but for sure there is a trade-off, and it's not that there is a specter, and there is no decentralization good and centralization bad. These specters are basically in a Taoist kind of yin-yang situation where decentralization is always very, very anti-fragile, but also very, very inefficient. While centralization is also very efficient, but more fragile. So based on the level of fragility you mean or you don't mean or you don't want, you can basically navigate the spectrum. Let me give you an example. When you go from barter to money, that's a centralization process. You have a lot of nodes that are creating a network of good-to-good exchanges that will grow as a network power law, basically. So you have two people, you have one line. You have three people, you have a triangle.
Yeah.
You have four people, you have the diagonal.
Metcalfe.
McAfee law. So you have that. Then but in this case, it's not the value of the network. It's the friction in the network that is growing n square. So what you want is to have a center of the figure where instead of having all the diagonals, everybody is connected right into the center. This center is money. So that's a centralization process. The reason that's tolerable and good is that it's creating efficiency. But the robustness of a piece of gold is so high because nobody human or that we know of can easily change the atomic numbers of gold, can easily create gold out of nothing. So you decentralize on something which was very robust against takeover, which was basically a precious metal. So it's a good kind of centralization. The fiat world is a bad kind of centralization because we centralize over an entity which is very fragile, very easy to take over. So we don't have to decentralize everything. We have to decentralize something. And another example that I think is cool. I research a lot with my wife about homeschooling. We think it's very cool. Also unschooling, very cool. But then we said, okay, but are we going to teach ourselves all the time? Maybe not yet, because we have other things to do. So we may hire some teacher as well. Maybe we will do something as some teacher. But then, I mean, it's very expensive. Maybe we can do efficiency with economies of scale if we join another family. But then maybe you don't want them in your home. Maybe we can just rent a place where family can jointly pay for a team of teachers. Which schooling, we are reinventing schooling, right? So the point is that the current schooling is broken, and we just want to create a better one.
Yeah. But that's I mean, there's nothing wrong with schooling in itself. I mean, it's wonderful to leave your kids for a couple of hours so you can get something done. Like it's not something new either. Like I bet people did this when they were living in caves. They left the kids in the cave. They didn't join to
big extended family. People were not like intensive parenthood of modern times when you stay with your kids alone, insulated from that didn't exist in ancestral times. The grandmas were basically growing. They're basically
the nonnas.
Yeah, nonnas, exactly. So in a way, I think that the point, or even again, another example, guns, firearms. You want guns to defend yourself. That's cool. I love that. I have them and I want them. But if you really want to defend yourself in some kind of of huge scale, you will have to hire guns, not just own guns. Yeah. And maybe you don't want to create a new company. You will hire an existing company, and they will be specialized. There will be specialization. So I think the point there is that too much centralization is so depending on a third party defensive firm or educational firm in a total way. So where you have no bargaining power, that's bad because now you are fragile. Now the firm turns against you and you have nothing.
Yeah.
Try to defend yourself or educate yourself without using the division of labor. That is, it's also bad because you will be super inefficient. Yeah. You will be the man on the hill with a gun, but then as soon as somebody better armed comes, you will lose. So the point is that you have to stay in between. The fiat world went too much on the centralization side.
Absolutely.
Modern individuals, they cannot do anything on their own. This is wrong. but you don't have to do anything on your own. Otherwise, you get back to be a savage. Civilization is division of labor. So it's basically really a yin-yang kind of balance.
I think we should call this phenomenon the non-aggression principle. Yeah.
Non-aggression. Well, that's non-as can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to call it here. I think this is a perfect ending. If we go in another rabbit hole, we'll be here for another hour. So thanks, Giacomo. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
I hope we should do this like 21 million times more if we have the time in our lives. Always a pleasure, Giacomo.
Likewise.
Thank you for
Thanks again,
having us here.
Okay.